Right, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, this beautiful book, I have food and travel journalist based in London, Glen Mutel. Glen, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I love being connected with you. A little bit before we get into this beautiful book, second edition of Food Journeys of a Lifetime, 500 Extraordinary Places to Eat Around the Globe. Tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I've been a travel journalist for 6 years for Nat Geo, not all of them for National Geographic, but for the last sort of 10 years or so. And then 5 years ago, we launched food kept sort of cropping up in our publication. So we decided we would launch a dedicated food and travel magazine, and that's what I've been doing. I've been editing that for the last 5 years. So food and travel is my life really on a day-to-day basis.
And I'm sure it has its challenges, but we all think, wow, I get to
Yeah.
travel the world and eat food,
Well, that's it. I got to remind myself of this, when I'm having a difficult day, it's a good place I've arrived at.
What a great gig. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I want to tell you, when I first was when first was approached to do this, I looked you up.
Oh.
And by the way, I've got it's good. It's all good. I will tell you that I stopped eating flesh. I went vegetarian when I was in high school 52
Right.
years ago, 52 years
Right.
ago, when it was very unpopular. Well, not popular, especially for a boy, and went vegan about 20-some years ago. And let me tell you what I found: a vegan crawl in Carnaby, London, a three-course, and the article that you wrote a few years back. And I thought, okay, I'm in. Then when I saw 10 ultimate vegan restaurants in the book, it was double sure. So I have to tell you, because a lot of times, I'm looking at it and it's interesting, it's fascinating. And then that's there. So I've got to ask you very quickly, vegan is becoming a thing, right? For you to then include it in, yeah. Wow.
Absolutely. And
world.
I think what's changed though, and I don't know how you feel about this, because I don't doubt for a second that your veganism is ethical, but veganism, there's a lot more vegan restaurants, there's a lot more vegan dishes, but people are being a bit pick and choose with veganism as well. And I'll front up with you. I don't think I could ever go vegan, but I like having vegan periods, vegan days, vegan
Yeah.
weeks. I love meat, but I like to put it in its old-fashioned perspective, every now and then. I mean, I'm saying this, I probably eat a lot more than I think I do, but I do like to have vegan days, and I do like to go to vegan restaurants, and I think that's the change. It's not all or nothing for a lot of people anymore.
I don't like how people are pushy. I can remember many decades ago being out to lunch with a friend, and he said, I'm gonna order a hamburger. Is that okay with you? I said, as long as you don't make me eat it. As long as I'm not eating it, it's just some of the ways, and I hate to get off on it, but when you say that you have meat days and vegan days, the products out there are wonderful, but those are processed burgers and etc. So I will have a meal where I'll include one of those once in a while, but mostly home cooked. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the thing. No, that's interesting. Interests me a great deal.
Yeah, the products are great. I'm called a vegan curmudgeon with family members, because I'll say, oh, the kids these days, they don't know what it was like to, try to find this or that. So
well, I would do more veganism if I had more time. I think you've got to invest a bit of time in it to not have all processed. I think that's my sticking point. But sometimes you make a meal and you reflect afterwards. You think, oh, that was actually vegan. So it's easier than people think.
Yeah, not intending it to be vegan, but it just by its nature. That's interesting. That's interesting. It's a new world for young people. Let's talk about putting this, and again, it is a beautiful, the photography, everything about it. Food Journeys of a Lifetime, 500 Extraordinary Places to Eat Around the Globe. A Nat Geo book, National Geographic. So it's great, folks. You know that. It is available everywhere and everywhere online. Please try to buy it as close to home as possible. Glen, how do you put something like this? How do you do this? How do you compile this? Something this massive?
the thing to remember is, when you see people doing things like this, it's the same with you and your skill set. You're never really starting from scratch. National Geographic have got loads of travel products, and they've got loads of food products, and so that they assemble a team that have the chops, and so you're never starting from scratch. You've always got
Yeah.
leads, you always,
Okay.
and then when you've got a team of researchers, gradually a consensus kind of builds, and I edit a food and travel magazine, and a lot of the things that we cover regularly I find are in this book, and the rest of the team, so
Interesting.
there
Yeah.
is a kind of consensus, but then there's some curveballs, things that I didn't know about, and so that's how it comes, and it's all wonderfully subjective. But we show our work in, like they do in a maths exam. We show our work in, so you can see why we've chosen the things we've chosen, even if you don't agree. But it's a book full of introductions. It's like a big glossy book of leads. And our aim is to, if you've decided you want to put food at the heart of your traveling, our aim is to get you engaged, get you hungry, point you in the right direction, give you a friendly nudge in the back, and then you take it from there. So that's the beauty of a book like this.
Yeah, and it is, and I keep saying the photography is amazing as
Well,
always with
yeah.
Nat Geo books. Was there anything in the book that really surprised you? You thought, wow, that's
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm an Englishman, and this is an American project. And what was good about that is I got to
uh,
see some of the stuff on my own doorstep that I've taken for granted and wouldn't consider to be world class. Suddenly seeing it in print, the fruits of the team's research, and thinking, oh, actually, that is really good. I've got lazy about it. So it's made me look at my own destination with sort of fonder eyes, really. Things as commonplace as the strawberry harvest in the county of Kent. Well, when you grow up in England, picking strawberries is just something everyone does in their childhood in the summer, and you don't think of it as a big deal. But then when you step back, you think, no, these
wow.
strawberries are good,
Yeah,
So that was my big learning, that was quite, I don't want to say humbling, but it was interesting to
very
and
interesting. Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah.
You
And
found
and
something. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
I found stuff about my own destination, and I think once this promotional period is over and I've got some free time again, I'm going to get back out there and start. I've come up with a little domestic bucket list to go along with my international one. So yeah, we're a small country, so we're always looking across the sea. But we've got some good stuff too.
Oh, you've got a lot of good stuff. You've got a lot of good. Oh. Since your food, I've got to ask you this, and I know this is a little off topic.
Yeah,
Marmite,
go for it.
Marmite, love it or hate it.
It's a despicable product and should be banned. But unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but I live with my partner of 20 years is a Marmite lover, and it finds its way into my kitchen quite often. So, I don't wince at the sight of it anymore, but I don't, my tongue doesn't understand it. I tell you that.
Well, I will tell you that I also live with someone that doesn't even like the aroma, doesn't like the smell of it, just won't tasted it once years ago, and I can't get her to taste it again. And I love it. So we're in a similar
You love it.
situation. Oh, I
Yeah.
look, I've got an empty jar. I've got and I love Marmite. I'm sorry to go off on that, but it
No,
was
no, no,
interesting
that's
because
fine.
years ago, and I know this is ignorant, and I shouldn't even say it, yet here it comes, no filter between my brain and my mouth. Years ago, I just assumed that if you were from the UK, you liked, or you could take it or leave it, or with Marmite. And I have learned over the years, it was a terrible assumption. I've learned over the years that it's a love it or hate it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well,
It's not,
I made the same assumption with the Australian spread Vegemite. I just
Vegemite.
assumed everyone in Australia loved it, and I've subsequently found out that that's not the case.
Yeah, yeah.
Sometimes you have to make the occasional assumption. There's only so many hours in a day.
Thank you. Thank you. It's wonderful, Glen Mutel, to have a young, bright, experienced individual save me from that. Because when I say it, I'm embarrassed. It's like you thought, what? Did everybody? Well, I didn't think people would hate it. Anyhow, so What and you also have the vegan festival, and don't want to just focus on vegan. Tokyo, and it 226 Michelin starred restaurants, the most of any city in the world.
Yeah,
What do you
now I
make of
mean,
that?
you can't always judge by Michelin stars. That's the first thing to say. But in this instance, I think it's quite safe. In my magazine, we have a regular format called My Life in Food, where we talk to celebrities about the destinations that have, rocked their world. And they always mention Tokyo, to the point where the format's getting, we're sort of almost sick of seeing it. But it is a destination that really leaves an imprint on people. I think I've been once, and I found the food amazing. And I think, Japanese food is so distinct. A lot of it evolved in isolation because Japan, was sort of left alone for a couple of centuries, and the food is so distinct. But in Tokyo, the precision with which it's produced. I mean, you spend a week in Tokyo, you come back a changed person, I think.
Wow.
So yeah, it's a good place to go. It's a good place to start if you want to sort of,
That's
get
interesting.
out there.
Yeah, Glen Mutel, because and by the way, I probably eat more tofu
Mm.
than I can't say anyone but probably I'm up there somehow. And I like, again, I love some of the Japanese foods and just noodles.
Absolutely.
I could go on and on, on and on.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
That's
I'm with you.
and I'm glad you said that about Michelin stars. Um, it, that's subjective, right? I mean,
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
some
Although the inspectors will no doubt tell you that they've got very sort of chiseled metrics that, a restaurant has to adhere to, and so on and so forth. I don't know. I'm not sort of downplaying the work they do. I mean,
I understand.
you go to a one Michelin starred restaurant, chances are it'll be brilliant. You go to a three Michelin starred restaurant, chances are it'll be amazing. But the fact is, some people, don't present their food in that way, and they don't work in that way, and yet they're still amazing. I mean, that said, um, Michelin have broadened their mind over the years. There is now a food market store. I can't remember if it's in Kuala Lumpur or Singapore. I think it's Singapore that has a Michelin star, and it's a rickety trestle table selling. I don't know I can't remember if it's new, if it's ramen or noodles or whatever it is. But so they've broadened their outlook. But there's loads of great places without Michelin stars, and there's loads of good places that have given them up because it's the wrong kind of hard work. But that said, if there's a Michelin star above the door, chances are you'll have a good meal. So it's as useful as you want it to be, I think.
Yeah, as useful as you want it to be. Again, I keep saying how beautiful the book is, and of course, again, a National Geographic book. Of course, it is. I also love the 10 unusual food and drink festivals. I mean, there's so much. I'm going through the book, and I'm thinking, look at all the how it opens your eyes and it makes you thoughtful about. Wow, I didn't know this. I didn't know this.
Yeah, that was an eye opener.
Festival.
I noticed there's, I mean, I know nothing about this particular one, so I probably shouldn't bring it up. But what struck me was the Rattlesnake Festival in Texas. I had no idea such a thing could exist, and I'm thrilled that it does. So
Yeah,
it's
could exist.
sounds,
You wouldn't even think something like that, right? You
yeah, yeah, yeah.
wouldn't even think that. And some of the towns, some of the highlights. I could go on and on. Glenn, you tell me what were some of the highlights of the book for you?
Well, there's so much to say, but the way I'll look at it is, if I had a magic wand and I could, where would I put myself now? And there's a top 10 in there on top 10 French cheese tours. And
Oh,
I would magic myself there, and I would have 10 days off work, and every day would be a different cheese tour, from Roblechon in the Alps to Comte in Jura to Camembert in Normandy. I didn't like cheese as a young man, but by goodness, and I know there's some really good vegan cheese these days too, but as I've got older, the siren call of cheese, it gets louder and louder. So
well,
that's what I would do.
Glenn, I will tell you. I mean, I loved cheese when before I was vegan. I loved cheese. It wasn't the taste, It was just it. I don't.
It was,
But
yeah,
there was,
of course.
yeah, there was an old joke I mean, really old joke. Did you hear the vegan cheese factory burnt down? Yes, everything melted but the cheese. Because back then it didn't, it tasted fine, but if you did a pizza and you
Yeah,
brought it off the stove and brought it out of the oven, the cheese looked like it did when you put it on. It still
yeah,
tasted okay, but
yes,
now they've got creamy, they melt. There's just
yeah,
there's
yeah,
oh, they're incredible. They're doing blue cheeses, and how that's come
yeah.
along is just absolutely,
Well, it blows my mind. I mean, I've a few vegan friends, and it's always struck me that vegan ice cream is so good, but
yeah,
vegan cheese had so much catching up to do. But I've had some stuff recently. I mean, I don't know what it was, but yeah, I mean, it's getting there. And they make a lot of it's made from cashew nuts. Is that
yeah,
right? That
yes,
that
yeah, yes.
blew
A
my
lot of
mind. Or tofu, actually.
Yeah,
They
and
make vegan
tofu. Yeah,
cheese and
we make
tofu.
I
Yeah,
make a ricotta with tofu, and it's
yeah,
really good.
yeah.
But it's again, it's so different with and I'm glad you mentioned that about the vegan cheeses. It's so different today. There's a feta cheese, Glen Mutel,
Oh,
that I was really skeptical. I thought, okay,
yeah.
cheddar, whatever they're making it. If somebody brought it out somewhere, or I wouldn't even approach it because I sure like they'd have to. I have to look at the label. I'm not a pain. I just don't eat it. I just won't
Yeah.
eat. It is absolutely amazing to me.
Wow.
They make
Okay.
it. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Well, I'll
great.
have to check it out. It's good. It's a good time. It's a good time to be vegan.
Yeah. Well, that's what I say. I'm a vegan curmudgeon. Oh, the kids these days, they didn't know what it was. And the ice creams is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And
The ice cream's always been good.
it's
Yeah.
amazing, the vegan ice creams.
Yeah.
Oh, you've got a split. I'm sorry, right?
Well, we've got a couple more minutes, I
Couple more
think.
minutes. Thank you. I wanted to
Yeah.
mention the best beer, wine, and more. That was
Oh,
really interesting to me.
yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, good.
Yeah.
Because I
Well,
enjoyed that too. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's just, rum around the Caribbean. Just it's again, thirst quenchers. I have to say, I just was blown away by this. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, no filter between my brain and my mouth. My greatest asset's also my greatest liability. So I thought, okay, this will be interesting. Okay, yeah, we'll do that. Let's schedule it. And when I received the book, it was like, wow, it was I, I terrible to say, especially it's a Nat Geo book. It was so much more than I anticipated, so much more than I thought.
Yeah.
So much more.
Well,
And
we're proud of it. Sometimes these roundup books can be a bit pedestrian, but I mean, what I like about it most of all, as well as the recommendations, everything's nicely put. Everything's phrased persuasively. We're not just saying, "Here's some food, off you go." And that's the thing I'm proudest of the team about, really. But you mentioned the booze thing, the alcohol thing. I mean, we talk about culinary tourism. A lot of people where I'm from, they're culinary tourists before they realize it, because whenever they go to Scotland, they end up doing a distillery tour, and they end up going, seeing how the whiskey's made, buying a more expensive one than they meant to afterwards.
yeah,
So a lot of us are culinary tourists without really realizing it, and whiskey distillery tours are a great first step, particularly in Scotland.
yeah,
So,
yeah. In Scotland, the best, right?
yeah,
The
yeah,
best for the distillery tools. That's got to be great. Again, I feel this would be a wonderful gift for anyone, even if you're not traveling. I'm not traveling. I don't anticipate any international travel probably
no.
for the rest of my life. And I'm very old. And for something like this, if I was lucky, maybe somewhere, but something like this, it's like a tour
Mm.
for you just to look through it. I keep
Well,
mentioning,
it's
go ahead.
designed to be a good flick, a good book
Yeah,
to flick through. But
yeah,
then it's
yes,
also designed to be a good book to read. You got the fire going, it's a cold night, you want to, escape beyond the confines of the weather. It's a good book to delve into. And then at the third level, it's a good resource if when you finally take the plunge and travel. So, I mean, however you enjoy it, it's got levels to it. But my fingers are crossed for you that I think there's travel in your
Thank you.
future.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that. I have to tell you, I had a blast with you. Your
It's
personality
been
is
great.
wonderful. And like I say, the book is amazing. I know you got a split. Glenn,
Well,
hopefully I can get you back to do the gig with me again someday.
absolutely be an absolute pleasure. I've really
I
enjoyed it.
would be
Thanks for
honored.
having me.
I would be honored. Thank you so much. Folks,
Cheers.
this book again, what a nice, by the way, I keep saying it, what a nice personality and how